We'll begin with our session now, paper presentation. And for this session, the chairpersons, I'm going to call out the names. Professor Fauzia Khan, Department of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. I request ma'am to please come up on the stage. We have Professor Santoshi Haldar, Department of Education, University of Calcutta, as a chairperson of the session. And we have Dr. Devika Guha, Loreto College, as the moderator of this session. I request Dr. Devika Guha to please come up on the stage. I request Hiral, our MA student, to please felicitate Dr. Devika Guha from Loreto College. We will begin the paper presentation session now. Professor Fauzia Khan will be arriving in a minute now. We have the first presenter, Mona Sedwal, Assistant Professor, NEPA, New Delhi. I request Mona Sedwal to please come here and start her presentation. From Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi.
Post-lunch session. I'm going to make a presentation on my paper, which is entitled Diversity and Inclusion in Schools, the policy analysis on provisions for scheduled tribes children. Since in the morning we have already heard that inclusion is now a very broad concept. We are not limiting itself only in terms of looking at the students who are at the with the special needs. This focus of my paper is essentially to look into the policies which have been done specifically related to the scheduled tribe children who have been a part of like when we are looking at the diversity in the initial stage, when we are looking at inclusion, we look at the various categories which have been already propagated and are well known in terms of the gender, socioeconomic background, caste, class, religion, language, and also what had been the students' aptitude and the motivation to learn, because these are the very important components when we are talking about inclusion at a very broader perspective. If we are looking at the diversity when what the inclusive education in the context of the UNESCO 2009, it talks about that we need to take into account the various needs of the learners, and also how do you eliminate the exclusion and the marginalization, which is the major focus of this particular discussion, which is going to be there. Also, if we are looking at in line of the 4 conditions which are identified, with the document which has been there as the base, there are a lot of focus which are going to be related to the resources in terms of the services which are available. Also, what is the acceptability, factor, which is, I think, one of the very core factor when we are looking at the inclusion and the broader context. And specifically when we are looking at the school education, we do have the different managements, different programs which are running on since independence, where we are focusing on the specific marginalized groups and the communities which are going to be the mainstream part of the education system. If we are looking at the background in terms of and specifically in the context of the right to education, we find that at the constitutional provision which focuses on the equal and equitable opportunities to all the citizens, children who are there in the country. But as far as the affirmative actions are concerned, specifically in the context of the scheduled tribe children, there have been very specific policies and programs which have been running on. Also, when we are looking at any of the schemes, how these schemes are working at the central level, and also since education is on the concurrent list, how it is contextualized with the frame of a particular state also makes a lot of contextual differences in terms of the implementation of the programs at the different levels. In terms of the financial provisions, again, how it varies from different points of time is also very important. 1999 had been one of the very major, years that, there had been a bifurcation, and there has been a special ministry, that is the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which was formed. And the Ministry of Tribal Affairs had been very specifically focusing on giving all kinds of provisions for the indigenous population at the in terms of the NEP 2020, which again is not making any demarcation in terms of the specific categories per se, but it's talking about the SETZs. It focuses on the futuristic roadmap that is basically in the context of the vocational education, which will be the integration of local art and culture. But how it is going to be visualized, how it is going to be implemented is still going to be a process to be seen. With reference to the proportion of the tribal population, which is around 8.6% of the total as per the 2011 census, since one sees that there is the concentration is in the rural areas when we are looking at the scheduled tribes, the focus areas are going to be much more different. If also one looks at the proportion of the in terms of the states, there is a lot of bifurcation in terms of looking at the specific states when we are looking at as per the distribution at the different levels. Certain states need very, very special focus in terms of the scheduled tribes. With reference to the literacy rate, the census data had shown a remarkable progress by the year 2011. A lot of programs had been initiated specifically during the 1990s, especially in the different concentrated states where, especially in Madhya Pradesh, where we had the program of Eklavya Model School, When we are looking at Orissa, there had been a lot of work which has been done in terms of working in how the multilingual primers have been also developed during this time. In spite of that, one sees that there's a substantial gap in terms of the literacy levels of the scheduled tribes. But there is one very interesting way of looking at it is also that when we are looking at the percentage of the population which is there, and specifically in the context of the northeastern region, one finds that there is no such focus which requires to be done in terms of the scheduled tribe children, because except for the state in the Tripura as per the data which is available. So one has to really focus on that when we are devising any of the policies. It's important that one really keeps into the mind the specific historical and social context, which will be much more important, so that the contextual realities will be much more important in terms of determining that what kind of interventions are required so that the changes are going to be there. In terms of the policy provisions, as I just mentioned, that the 1986 policy has been one of the very major timeline where one has seen that there have been a lot of focus on not only the STs but also on all the marginalized groups which had been there during the 1990s due to the various programs and programs which had been there for making a quality change in terms of looking into their education. With reference to the special provisions which are being provided for the scheduled tribes, the very important role has been there of the residential schools, which had been very widespread in terms of taking care of reaching the goals, in terms of the development, not only in terms of looking at the specific regions, but also implementing the socio-economic programs at the different levels. There have been the schemes, which have been there, which are again focusing within the STs also on the girls, which have been very, very important. One of the very important interventions have been in the context of the Eklavya model residential schools, which have been playing a very vital role in providing the space for the children to be a part of, in terms of also giving a lot of financial just 15 minutes, I'm just fine. And also the policies are focusing more in terms of looking at. So if we are looking at, again, this is just a graphical representation in terms of how the ashram schools are widespread in terms of the tribal dominated states. And this is the status of EMRs, which are still in progress and completed as per the data which is available with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs. Some of the issues and challenges are with reference to that one sees that there is a strong, even if we bring the children to the school, the very important component which has been also highlighted in the morning has been with reference to the teachers. How the teachers are also trained, because if you are looking at the multicultural diversity of the ST communities, it will be much more important. So the other important part had been with the context of the medium of instruction, which is again going to be playing a very vital role. So one is that there cannot be a homogeneous treatment of the scheduled tribe groups, because obviously the every state will have its own kinds of policy programs which are actually devised as per the requirement, keeping it into the context. One also finds that there is a shortage of trained teachers, which is much more in the context of the medium of instruction. And also there is many of the times there is also the lack of awareness which is related to the available schemes which are there. Just to wind up, there are certain way forward in which we feel that the student teachers and their background should be kept into the center stage, and also the compatible research between the states would also give a kind of effective policy intervention at the different points of time. Thank you so much.
Senior lecturer, North South University, Bangladesh. Adhere to the time limit. Within 10 minutes, please try to complete your presentation.
Yeah. And a warm welcome to all the audience members and the esteemed panel here as the session judge. So my paper is entitled Gender and Intimacy, Love Jihad as Constituting Authoritarian Populism in Indian Society. In October 2014, in the northern Indian city of Meerut, Uttar Pradesh, a 20-year-old woman filed a report retracting a statement to senior police officials claiming that she was being forcefully confined by her parents who objected to her relationship with a youth named Kaleem Sheikh. For all practical purposes and to avoid the legal quandaries, let us call her as she sought police custody for she feared for her life. The police then lodged a case of assault against the girl's parents, and a total of 8 people, including Kaleem, were arrested after the girl's family filed another case of abduction, rape, and conversion under duress. As Hindu right-wing groups ran amok, claiming a Muslim conspiracy to convert Hindu girls, leaders from India's ruling party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, whom we shall now refer to as BJP, and its affiliate groups such as the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh RSS and the Vishwa Hindu Parishad or the World Hindu Council, began a campaign against what they believed was love jihad, a ploy, ruse to lure and seduce Hindu girls to fall in love, get married and convert to Islam. Neha Dikshit, Al Jazeera, October 15, 2014. Love jihad refers to love between a Hindu woman and a Muslim man. While predating the specific incident, violence against Muslim youths and their families had been organized in Kerala and Mangalore in the 1970s, and even the capital city of Delhi witnessed a prominent case of harassment of a Delhi University male Muslim college teacher and a Hindu female research scholar, Tanika Sarkar. VHP leaders in the 1990s instructed their cadres to scour registry offices to scan marriage notices put up in advance in order to seek discovery of inter-community marriages and disrupt the impending nuptials. If dissuading the parents failed, then sterner measures were to be adopted befitting the offense. Love jihad campaigns in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh provided fertile ground where the political pendulum shifted to the far right in 2014. Even a year ago, in 2013, a savage anti-Muslim pogrom was carried out in Muzaffarnagar where love jihad episodes overlapped with mob lynching of the untouchable Dalits, combining the rumors of cow slaughter and forced conversion. G.V. Bhatnagar, The Wire, October 5, 2015. The spectre of love jihad loomed large after the BJP under the leadership of Narendra Modi swept to the national power after a landslide victory in the national elections of 2014. 2 years later, India's most populous state, Uttar Pradesh, elected Yogi Adityanath as the chief minister, whose fierce dedication to vigilantism targeted interfaith relations, read Hindu-Muslim, and manifested itself in a virulent form of Hindu nationalism. In November 2020, Chief Minister Adityanath announced at an election rally that his government was getting ready to act on love jihad in a firm way, Varadarajan 2020. He declared that his government would bring an effective law those who hide their name and identity and play with the honor of daughters and sisters. I'm warning them in advance. If they don't stop, their funeral processions will be taken out in it. This was a precursor to an ordinance banning religious conversions in the state. In this article, I would reflect on what the introduction of the love jihad laws brought to the masses by establishing a notion of Hindu statehood, a national statecraft which selects inchoate ingredients of sentiments to create an ideological agenda consolidating Hindu nationalism. First, I situate anti-love jihad laws in relation to politics and ideology of Hindu nationalism, national statecraft. Second, I will try and draw our attention to the fallacy that the Hindu woman's body becomes a marker to be preyed upon by Muslim males, thus sharpening the divide and demonizing the Muslims as unfit for Indian polity. We examine legislation trying to trace it to majoritarian demographic anxieties and nationalist ideology. The multiple ways in which law complicates and criminalizes interfaith intimacies and work as a form of moral regulation, cleansing the Indian nation of the Muslim enemy, we can return to the Vedic world order and stem the tide of interfaith marriages and protect its citizens from illicit criminal relationship. And third, now, how the enforcement of anti-love jihad laws happens in tandem between public authority of state sanction and vigilantism evolving as a hegemonic power of ethnic nationalism. Love jihad as weapon for ideological warfare of the Hindutva communal mobilization. Thomas Blom Hansen points out that Hindu nationalism has indeed successfully recruited and subsumed religious sentiments and public rituals into a larger discourse of national culture. Its actual objectives go far beyond religious purposes and are centrally concerned with the notion of national honor, stability, and global power. Such a transmutation is indeed the first step in Hindu national strategy. Hindu nationalism, according to Christoph Jaffer Law 1996, emerged as a movement in the early 20th century, working against the grain of the intense differentiation of Hinduism as a religion to build India as a unitary Hindu nation. He points out that it defined a collective identity in order to build an assertive and unified Hindu identity to battle the external threats of Christian missionaries, British colonials, and Muslims. The map of Akhand Bharat, One India, which includes Afghanistan, Burma, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Pakistan, is displayed in many of the Sangh's institutions across the land. It embeds the core ideology of the Sangh's philosophy of the mythical Vedic Golden Age. We want a living God, said Golwalkar. The nation was the God in Golwalkar Bunch of Thoughts, 1966 reprint. In his redefinition of India, or Hindu Rashtra, he has erased the distinction between nation and community. The nation God of Hindutva is therefore the community or society of Hindus. The primary aim of Hindutva's Hinduism is not to unify, but to adopt an agenda of violence against non-Hindus, as exemplified by the formation of the Vishwa Hindu Parishad in 1964, which brought together various monastic sects, priests, ascetics, and religious orders. Veer Savarkar, the proponent of the Hindutva rhetoric.
Yes, I'm sorry to disturb you. 1 minute left.
Okay. Okay. Veer Savarkar, the proponent of the Hindutva rhetoric, describes India as the land of holy rivers and mountains as mentioned in the scriptures, sanctified by mythology and aligned with Hindu cosmogony. He proposes that the Indian nation belongs to those whose religions sprung from the land, thus alienating two major communities. So in trying to trace Hindutva historical narratives, we see an attempt to manipulate and produce the Hindu common sense, the view that the Indian nation is quintessentially Hindu and its sacred land, that the holy sites have been defiled by infidels and non-believers. I'm just jumping, okay? Love jihad is prescriptive love beyond boundaries in Manusmriti. Love is a central location and critical function in the politics and ideologies of Hindutva. Priya Thakur writes, the Love Jihad campaign claims that Muslim men seduce, convert, marry and have children with non-Muslim women to ensure that the Muslim minority in India becomes a majority. This demographic anxiety underpins a sense of vulnerability for the Hindu majority. And as the Skathinkas Freudstad mentions in an article, the origins tend to be traced to Karnataka, where Hindu nationalist activists began to use this term. So I just jump to my last point. State power and vigilante activism is manifested in authoritarian populism, and I'm skipping. So this is Manusmriti. This is an image of Vijayakant. This is Isaiah Berlin. He says, in my concluding remarks I bring forward, in this article I have tried to argue how Islamophobic ideological constructs like love jihad has been absorbed into the nationalist statecraft, strengthened by political consolidation resulting in legislation governing and controlling gender relations and intimacies. And such legislation tends to erode or marginalize social intimacies and transcends the boundaries of caste or creed. The political theorist ICSSR Berlin warned in 1967 that a single formula to cover all populisms everywhere will not be very helpful. Berlin identified a core populist idea, the notion that an authentic, true people have been damaged by an elite, whether economic, political, or racial, in some kind of secret or open enemy. The exact nature of that enemy, foreign or native, ethnic or social, doesn't matter. Berlin adds, what fuels populist politics is that concept of the people battling the elite. Thank you.
Any questions? I must say we have a very obedient audience.
I have a question.
Those who agree? Okay, you agree to disagree? Yes, I think we have a question there. Yes.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Actually, I don't have a question. I just wanted to add something. That since your topic was love jihad, I think it will be very pertinent if you explain the meaning of jihad. Because the true meaning of jihad is quite different from the way that it is used in the Indian media. You know?
Thank you. I think, like if I try to...
Yes, ma'am. I think that will be very helpful for the audience, and
yes.
that information is something that skips everywhere, you know.
Yes.
They put out the connotations in very different manner from what it truly was and the way we have understood it, you know, through our scriptures.
That's an interesting perspective, actually, to, you know, you can kind of the dichotomy between the term jihad and love jihad. Thank you. Yes, anyone else?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My inquiry, not a question, is directly that how your this topic is support to our conversation or our this conference. Love Jihad and our this conference is going on sustainability, global diversity, and others point. Your Love Jihad point, in which points of view you support this theme?
Oh, this is under cultural diversity and inclusion.
And in your presentation, you directly named some Honorable Prime Minister and our other state chief minister also. Is that
These have been backed up by scholars from all over the world. So I am, every statement that I made and the quotation I gave were backed up from taken by scholars and has a bibliography.
maybe, but is this the right to, as your...
It's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of, you might reject my opinion and my ideas totally. It's a matter of perspective. Thank you.
Okay.
Our next presenter, Dr. Neeta Jain, Associate Professor, Department of Education, Loreto College, Kolkata.
Chairperson and the moderator, good afternoon to all in the audience. I have been a very last minute inclusion in this session. I was never intending to come, but it was just decided yesterday because of an ailing parent at home. So I don't have a PPT, but I'll speak to you about whatever I have in mind. At the very outset, I want to say that I don't have expertise in diversity and inclusivity, but I am catering to the sub-theme, the first sub-theme of the seminar, which is the philosophical, conceptual and foundational basis. I would like to say that if you want to look up for something, you can turn to Plato, the renowned philosopher. And if you are doing some reading already, then also you can look for that and find it in Plato. I am taking a very starry-eyed view of a golden age, of some golden age at some time. From the morning, we've listened to our keynote speakers, we've listened to the speakers just ahead of the lunch break today, Mrs. Harrison and Professor Ratna Ghosh, they all emphasized on a value-driven approach. And Professor Bedi did emphasize that we need a change in our attitude. So if we turn to our ancient philosophers, our renowned ancient philosophers like Plato, Whitehead, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, we do find answers to some of the questions that are still bothering us. To let you know, the question of an equal opportunity was there even in Plato's time. And Plato did emphasize that there should be an equal opportunity for all social classes in society. There should be equal opportunities for girls, and children should be allowed to proceed and go up the ladder if they have the intellectual capabilities. So it's not something new. Now, keeping this in mind, what can we do? What is our role as teachers? And how can education play a role here? The thing that is important is that harmony is very important, a sense of harmony within us. But how will that come about? And since I just have 10 minutes to myself, I'll quickly tell you, harmony is when we have inner unity within ourselves. And it is also important that we manifest morality and justice in our behavior. When all sections and all elements in society function well, then there is going to be justice. So somewhere we bring in values of harmony, justice, and morality into a discussion when we are speaking about philosophy or an attitude towards inclusivity and diversity. In other words, the culture that exists at a particular time is very important. Now, there was this Oxford scholar who said that people should not look at him, but they must look in the direction where he's going. So I want you to look at the direction that I'm taking. I want to reiterate this point that harmony can come about with the help of, as Plato suggested, with gymnastics and music in the curriculum. Gymnastics is about health education, it's about diet, it's about the body. And a good body and a sound body will lead to a healthy mind. We know about that. And music can bring about that harmony in the soul. Now, whatever happens in society affects our soul. This must be kept in mind. So as teachers and as educators, as we work in our schools and colleges, universities, we have to create an environment where the soul can develop beautifully, harmoniously, and in a good way. Now, why am I speaking about Plato? Because Plato, today's infant education and today's early age education, whatever practices are being followed in this age and time, actually we owe the debt to Plato. Even Rousseau, the great educator, who was judged differently by different authors and writers at different times, had to say this about Plato, that the Republic was the best treatise on education. And it was Plato who had very much emphasized on early education, education beginning from birth and happening in the home, and a good environment is needed for character development, and we need balance and harmony. So we have, there were scholars and philosophers like John Locke, Milton, Goethe. They were all influenced, they're all descendants of Plato's views. So the answer is available to us. And whatever knowledge we have about philosophy or these philosophers, it is expected of us that if we have a sense of knowledge, we will translate that sense of knowledge in the society that we live. So my appeal to all educators and teachers and all students here is that we have ways and means, there are avenues to bring about harmony within us so that we we do not discriminate unnecessarily. We do not, there is inclusivity in society, and with the vision that Plato had was of goodness. And goodness is not something very remote, it is attainable. We can attain it because whatever we do in our sense, objects, in our shadows, there is this form of the good, and this form of the good manifests itself. So in the actual, this is a reality. Now when this is a reality, it is not something very, very far away from us, and once we develop a sense of harmony, justice, and morality within us, and this can happen from the system of education, that the right kind of education is provided to children in the schools through to whatever they study in school, then this can happen. We will not need litigation, we will not need laws and legislation to bring about inclusivity. It will happen from, it will automatically happen, it will happen by default. Thank you. I will be speaking at length in the paper, but right now I'm just sharing these views with you.
Three people were presented in this session. Mona Sedwal, Diversity and Inclusion in the School, Policy Analysis, Provision for Scheduled Tribes and Children. Very well presented, very informative session. First of all, I will congratulate on three presenters of this session. First paper, as I mentioned, topic also, it was good analysis of all the policies available in the area, and you have mentioned it with the graph and presented it very well. Second, Sabeha Saleh's presentation was really on the topic, which is, I must say, it's a really daring topic for the research. And if you have taken on the basis of cases, that means you are having courage to present this type of research in front of everybody, and you have to take care of emotions of the people who are here, and you have to take care and you have to be politically correct. So in that manner, this paper is really a daring one. She presented it well, but because of we have always paucity of time here in presentation, so we are squeezing our paper, so we cannot present what is the real crux of the paper. And for that we need organization of information within given time. And it is really important for us to squeeze our paper, or you can say the emphasis of the paper here in front of the audience, to generate more and more discussion. That part is really missing. And then third paper, Neeta Dai, she presented it very well, but it is, I can say here, the methodology part was comparatively not very strong, but the idea was there in her mind, and she had taken it just as I can say example presentation. So overall this session is really informative, very well presented papers, and I can say two papers were research papers. So session was really interesting and very informative. Thanks once again for the presenters, and I am also thankful to all the participants here for their patient listening. But again I'll say questions come there. थोड़े होना चाहिए. Thank you very much.
Presenters and our chairpersons, Professor Fawzia Khan and Dr. Devika Guha ma'am, thank you very much.
on behalf of Ma'am Fawzia and myself, we would like to thank Dr. Shantoshi Haldar for organizing an international conference of this stature and bringing all different minds and thoughts in this very auditorium. So thank you very much, Professor Haldar. Is she there? Here? Yes. Thank you, Dr. Shantoshi Haldar, for this opportunity given to each one of us to share our thoughts. That is what Ma'am Fawzia and myself, we wanted to share. Thank you so much.